Hey, welcome back to another devlog covering my game Soulseeker. In case you're new here, this is a single-player game in which you play an astronaut traveling the galaxy and exploring new planets. Now, why would he be doing that, you may ask? That's what I plan to address today, and this video focused on the gameplay loop. The full game can be looked at like a sandwich. You start with a story segment, then you kind of let off the leash. Just explore the galaxy to your heart's content. Fight enemies, build bases, maybe die a few times. After a while you hit a certain threshold and the story-heavy end of game starts. Since I'm still working on the story, I'll be talking about that middle chunk today, which is fine considering it makes up the majority of the game. Looking at the gameplay loop as a whole, it comes in 3 basic steps. First, you travel to a planet that has enemies you can handle. Second, you fight the enemies and harvest them, mostly by luring them back to your base. Third, you buy better base materials with the loot. That in turn lets you travel to more dangerous planets and fight more dangerous enemies. After that, the cycle repeats. There are several thousand planets for you to pick between when traveling the galaxy. To help differentiate them, I've designed biome areas that spawn in the galaxy. No, almost, yes, perfect. This took me ages to create, in part because I'm bad at using polar equations, and in part because my game engine Godot has some very annoying collision issues. Sometimes they won't fill in. Sometimes the stars inside them won't register. Sometimes they just wouldn't show up at all. Still, at least now they work, and now I get to play around with some pretty shapes. Moving on, once you've landed on a planet, your mission is to gather the resources. As of right now, you do that by fighting and harvesting enemies. I'm thinking about adding resource collection mechanics too, but for now I'm going to focus on getting this stuff I have working. I've created 5 enemies so far. On the more basic side, there's the red tentacle orb. It floats around in a small pack and will chase you if you get too close. Next, there's a small blue orb of sorts. It'll chase you around but has a hard time stopping, so it's pretty fun to sidestep and watch it fly by. Its speed does make it hard to hit, but sidestep it into a mine and it'll die no problem. Number 3 is a huge purple tentacle. It stays underground until you get near and then it shoots up. Lastly, numbers 4 and 5 are kind of linked together. One is an orange pustule type thing. It'll kind of just sit there and doesn't directly attack you. If you get near though, it'll shoot out enemy number 5. Little brown blobs that jump around and explode as they get near you. That makes them especially tricky to harvest since you need to kill them before they've exploded. Now that I've introduced all of these enemies, I think it's a good time to mention that all of this art is still a work in progress. Some things I'm pretty happy with, like the protagonist and red and blue enemies. Others though, like the purple one, are just basic outlines so that I can focus on programming for now. Nothing sucks the joy out of game making just like spending 2 hours making a single sprite look just right. As such, I'd rather save that until I have a working prototype of the game at least. To fight these enemies, you can build a base using a number of different structures and traps. I mentioned this in the last video, but I don't want to make the character himself very powerful. Instead, you often need to lure the enemies back to your base. That way, I think the enemies will stay formidable instead of becoming cannon fodder in the late game. Aside from walls and floors, you have an autonomous turret, caltrops, mines, and a laser wall. They each play into a different enemy's weakness, so I'll probably add more defenses as I add more enemies. Right, so the last step in the loop is spending your resources on building material. For most of the time, you'll need to do that at an item converting machine at your home base. Oh yeah, by the way, your base is a space station that floats near the center of the galaxy. That makes sense in the context of the story. Eventually you can unlock an item converter that you can place as a structure in the bases you build. That way you can freely expand the base on a planet yourself rather than relying on your space station. Since you're no longer attached to the space station, it's more convenient to travel further away in the galaxy, which also happens to be where the more valuable and dangerous enemies are. And with that, I think I've covered the basic gameplay loop. Explore, harvest, build, repeat. I will say, however, that I'm considering adding another step in the loop. As some of you have suggested, maybe needing to fight for resources isn't the best move. I can take advantage of the base building and add oil extractors or some other resource gathering buildings. That would go alongside the fighting step a bit like this. That's still an idea though, so I don't have any prototypes or anything yet. Obviously there's some smaller things I've done that I've left out, but who cares about that stuff anyways? I'm kidding, but seriously, for every new feature I add, I have 10 times the amount of unnoticeable stuff I have to do. That really stretches out this process, so bear with me with the speed I'm working. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I appreciate your support. It's crazy how many people commented with advice on my last video, and I've read through and considered every single one. If you have more, by all means, keep it coming. See you next time.